Welcome back to the Keep Off the Bets podcast, coming to you from the sunny shores of what feels like Madagascar, but it's actually Matlock. It just is that warm. Joining me today is the man who is not Mansfield's favourite son, but he is Chesterfield's favourite son. It's Matthew Rhodes. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm frustrated because the furthest I can go is the bottom end of the back garden at the moment until Wednesday, because I've got to self-isolate, which is why I went at the game for the Mansfield Town game. So, but yeah, I feel fine. I've got no symptoms or anything like that, and I'm having a test later today, see if I have actually got COVID. But yeah, it's very, very frustrating, but I'll be back for the Matlock Chesterfield game, thankfully.
You'll be glad to know, dear listener, I can see Matt's face currently, and I can confirm. I'm not a registered doctor, but he doesn't look very peaky to me. So I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all come back fine. But like you say, Matt, with COVID, you can't take any chances. So we had to sideline you last night. I know you missed Matlock Town Mansfield, a fixture you were relishing, a fixture that you had pinpointed as one you were looking forward to. And what a game. What a game. I mean, I was going to start with the Works was Ivanhoe game, but I just want to gush about how good Matlock were last night against a League Two side that had two, what I'd consider really good strikers for a League Two level. And Matlock were just everything. You'd have thought it was played with the pace and desire of the cup game from a Matlock point of view. Every single player from 1 to 11, subs included, everybody put a shift in. And for those who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know, if you're listening to this, it'd be a bit strange. But we are now 4 games unbeaten in pre-season. Those 4 games, of course, Wexford Ivanhoe, Derby, Chesterfield, and Boston. 4 games, 4 very differing tests. You look at, we've got Chesterfield coming up as well, so that's going to be a different test. You've got teams that are full-time, teams that are part-time. But the Gladiators at the minute are on a winning streak. Now, you don't want to get carried away, of course, because it is only pre-season. But winning is a really good habit. And what I've seen so far, I feel like we're beginning to see something of a really good side. How do you feel about it, Matt, from what you've seen?
Yeah, very positive after the 4 games that we've had in pre-season. Obviously, I weren't there for the Mansfield game because I've got to self-isolate. But from yourself and from everyone that I know who commented on the game, said it was terrific. Like you said before, Mansfield, who I imagine will have a pretty decent season this time around. They had a strange season last time around. Obviously, had to change the manager. But and they've brought in some really good additions, especially Rhys Oates, who was fantastic for Hartlepool last season. And they brought pretty much a full strength team out, maybe minus a couple. And from what I heard, just Matlock really bossed the game, to be honest, and heard a lot about how Reece Kendall played really, really well. Heard that Det Walker played very well, and Mark Lee's sort of running the game in midfield from what you said earlier, James. All sounds good, but I probably wouldn't have predicted a 1-0 victory before the match, but I'm not too surprised that they were able to get a victory, because if you've been to especially the Boston game and the Derby games, they're looking really good. They just look like a strong unit. Everyone knows what the role is. Everyone's up for it. It is looking good. It just looks like a really settled group of players that just all want to get going. Because obviously, barely played in the past 18 months, so they're all desperate to get going. But they all seem so keen to be playing for Matlock in particular. and all seem to be right behind, the management's plans for how they go about the game, how they approach it tactically. It just all seems great, and the new additions all seem really good, with Uchegbalam especially, and Alex Wiles. All sounds fantastic. So I know it was, technically a surprise win, because obviously Mansfield are 3 divisions above Matlock, but not too surprised that it happened, because it just, everything seems to be running along and ticking along really nicely with the Matlock squad. Everyone seems really, really, really settled. Sounds like everyone's really fit as well, considering they've barely played any matches in the past 18 months. No complaints whatsoever. Was delighted with it, and very intrigued to see how they get on against Chesterfield in the match this coming Wednesday. Will be really interesting to see what happens.
Of course, with pre-season, it's difficult as a Matlock fan myself to not get carried away, because you want to go, oh, we're going to win the league before we beat it in pre-season. We play some great teams. I've known Matlock win all their pre-season games and then lose their first 4 league games. So you don't want to get carried away. But if this Matlock side is defeated, it's not going to be through a lack of effort, through a lack of desire. They're going to get beaten maybe by a side that's more technically efficient on the ball, a side that's a bit sharper, perhaps, a side that, you look at South Shields or someone like that, who are full-time, who are going to have that extra burst of energy. But this Matlock side, there's no quitting it. We saw against Boston, coming from behind, last minute goal. There were only one team, I feel, in that game that wanted to win it, that wanted to carry on that winning momentum. And another thing that I've seen in pre-season that I really like as well, it's not a case, we're not looking at one guy, say, we'll take, for example, Liam Hughes, even though he has chucked in a few goals. Goals are coming from places all over the pitch. It's not just from one area in particular. We've had goals from defenders, own goals cropped up with 2. He's not signed yet, but we're very.
He had a good Euros, didn't he?
Well, that's it. The poor lads against Worksworth either now. I think, nothing either could do, but their knees did benefit us that game. So, and then you've got like Qualter's got 2, Jez, 2 fantastic games, 2 fantastic goals. Sorry, against Worksworth either. You've got Alex Bird, who against Derby, and I mean, for me, I'm going to go on record and say this. And if Alex listens to this, I'll be his best mate. For me, when Alex Burns on his day, I don't think there is a better player in the league.
I thought you were going to say in the world then.
Oh, well, Cristiano Ronaldo does have pictures of Alex Burns on his wall. But he's just somebody, he has this knack, and I feel every team needs it, the knack to just pull out something special. When the chips down, his crosses this season, his delivery from corners, they're going to cause so much trouble. And when you've got the likes of Liam Hughes in the box, you've got Reece Kendall, you've got Ryan Coulter, you've got Sam Edgerton, players of that ilk who aren't scared to stick their head in and go football. You're going to get goals from that. And I feel Alex has shown that through the season. And I mean, for Alex, the second goal against Derby, that Hughes assist in particular, it just oozes of class. It's such a little touch, a minute touch almost, but it is the touch that makes the space to give Alex the ability to run on and then flick it over the keeper. You've got goals. I mean, Ross Hanna, there was this big question mark when he came in. What Ross Hanna are we going to see? Will Ross be able to recapture the magic he had at Matlock? I mean, I know you did the tech commentary for the Matlock Boston game. I believe you referred to him as Ross Hanna, and it's a moniker that's quite fitting. He's somebody, he's not going to have a burst of pace, or you're not going to see him, I think, run onto a ball that's about 10 yards in front of him anymore. But you are going to see a player that, if he's given the ball in the box, he's going to ask questions of the keeper. And my word, his first goal against Boston was, I know you weren't here in Ross's first, that was classic Ross. So you look at that, and it can only be a good thing going forward. Is there any players in particular from the games you've seen? I know obviously with you missing the Mansfield Town game, that have stuck out to you. Any players that you feel are going to be big players for Matlock this coming season, just based off those games?
Yeah, quite a few, to be honest. I mean, I kind of tend to be sort of a little bit pessimistic, I guess. I guess that's what happens when you follow Chesterfield and Villa for a number of years. But there's just loads to be encouraged by. Alex Byrne, yeah, just to sort of briefly echo what you said, just looks dangerous. Every time he's on the wing, really, either wing, because he can pop about on the left wing as well as the right wing. His deliveries are fantastic. I think he's been great, really, really good. It just looks like he's been playing regular football over the past 18 months, when obviously that's not been the case for anyone at this level. So yeah, he's been fantastic. Uchegbalem looks a very interesting signing. A little bit similar to Byrne, sort of like where he can pop up on the pitch, but I think he can do a little bit more variety, because I know he can sort of play as like a proper wing back, so he'll have more defensive duties, but he can also play pretty much right off your out and out strikers as well. So you could do quite a lot of things with Uchegbalem by the looks of it, but it is just, he looks fantastic and a constant threat when he's on the ball. His performance against Derby's academy team was fantastic. They clearly had a lot of problems trying to deal with him. I'm sure they were glad that he wasn't on the pitch for the full 90, but he looks great. And from what Dave Wilde has said before, he's still young. I think he's 20, but already he seems to be maturing his games. Apparently, when he first started, everyone knew he had the raw talent, but he kind of, not selfish, but kind of like would run, and then sort of have a shot himself. Whereas now, and you've already seen it in these pre-season games, is looking up and seeing what other options have I got. So, like, for example, when he passed the ball to Ross Hannah for his first goal against Boston, there was a great pass. There was a really good assist after a very good run individually. So he looks good. Now, I think he'll be a fan's favourite, because he looks an exciting player. And I guess it could be till midnight here. I'll probably end with Alex Wiles. He looks really good. I've seen Curtis Woodhouse, former Gainsborough manager, and managed Wiles at the time that he was at the club. I saw him pop up online when Matlock signed him and said, "You've made a really, really good signing there." And yeah, he's been absolute class so far in pre-season. Works very, very hard. Seems to be everywhere, really. Good surging runs, but a good tackler as well. Seems to have a keen eye for goal. Gets in around the box too, but does his defensive duties. He looks fantastic. Really, really good signing. So yeah, there's genuinely, like, I mean, I know it is only pre-season, but there's loads to be encouraged by. Absolutely loads. And pre-season so far couldn't have gone any better. It really couldn't. I guess what I'd say just overall collectively is what I am a bit surprised by is just how fit the team are. It just looks like they've been playing regular football for the past year, solid, and obviously that's not been the case. But they look really, really sharp and just fit, like everywhere on the pitch, from defence up to the final third. Everyone looks really, really sharp and up for it. And I guess that maybe surprised, man, obviously weren't the game, but that might have surprised Mansfield a little bit, that they were so match fit. I think that was Mansfield's second game. So I'm guessing they were a little bit rusty. But then again, they did beat Retford 9-1, I think it was, in their first pre-season game. So, yeah, just really, really encouraging. And yeah, like I said before, fascinated to see how they get on against Chesterfield, because obviously they're a league below Mansfield, as much as it pains me to say that. But obviously they've been in excellent form since James Rhodes took over. But yeah, it'll be interesting because Chesterfield have made a lot of new signings, as usual. So they've got a lot of new look players. So I imagine they all won't have properly gelled in yet. Who's to say Matlock can't spring another surprise again? You know, they've got every chance maybe of springing another surprise.
I think like you say there, Chegbourne as a player that you mentioned, he's a real firecracker. He's somebody who is going to get fans off the seats. You know, he's going to get fans excited. He's going to win penalties this season. I will tell you that much. Because we saw, and I think you identified it against the Derby County under-23 side, where he was just absolutely terrorising defenders. And I think at the Northern Premier League level, there's going to be a few times where defenders are going to grow frustrated and just kick out. And I think that's going to win him a few penalties. But I think it is a good observation. He does play in a similar sort of, if you were looking at a heat map of the two, there will be a lot of crossover in positions on the pitch. I feel that can only be a thing that benefits Matlock going forward. Because when you've got two players who are adaptable, who can switch, who can give you that two-pronged attack, you're not just having to rely on one side of the field. And I do feel in the past, Matlock have become reliant on, say, the left wing or the right wing. Whereas now you've got players who you can be a threat from either wing. The team is quite happy to spread the play as and when needed. And we saw that against Mansfield. There's definitely no fear in doing that. But I do feel there's a lot of positivity in the camp at the minute. There seems to be a lot of good-natured banter. The lads enjoy being around each other. I know, I don't know if you'll mind me saying this, but I know the chairman treated a few of the players yesterday to a well-earned pint of beer. I don't know if you'll mind me saying that, but there seems to be a real close bond. The lads seem to want, and it's only my observation, of course, but the lads seem to want to play for Matlock. They're here for the right reasons. And I feel that's why we've seen fans, and I mean, you'll have to tell me, Matt, if you agree or disagree with this. I feel we've seen fans unite behind this side, as opposed to, questions being thrown up, is the manager making the right decision? I feel the fan base seems collectively to be behind Paul Phillips's project with the team.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I think you can see that through the crowds. Obviously, with it only being pre-season, you might expect, well, you probably would expect still fairly low crowds at the moment, but they've been good, haven't they? For all of them, even the Wirksworth game, and obviously Wirksworth are about 4 divisions below Matlock, so they're obviously, no disrespect, sorry, that is going to sound patronising. They are a small club because they play at such a low level of football, but the crowd was, about 400 for that? So, yeah. It kind of shows... with the support that's already been shown in pre-season, I think it's kind of showing how much people are getting behind this Matlock team. The crowd was just under 1,000. I mean, obviously a lot will have been Mansfield fans as well, but that's still fantastic. I imagine for the Chesterfield game, obviously I've got no proof. It's sort of speculation at the moment, but I imagine it'll be a very big crowd for the Proctor Cars Stadium because obviously both teams have got a lot of good morale about them and they're in good form. Both teams are behind their managers, and obviously it's a friendly local rivalry that's been going for years. So I imagine that'll be a terrific attendance. I think you can tell by the crowds that are coming in that people are, really getting behind this team. What I just hope is that this season, I mean, not to focus on the news too much, but obviously there might be some disturbances. We just don't know yet in terms of the season being uninterrupted. So we might have some hiccups. We'll just have to wait and see. But if we can just have a run of a few months where, you know, the team are able, the fans are able to see the team once or twice every week for a few months, and Matlock are able to keep this up where they're winning more than what they're not, then yeah, you're going to see some really, really good crowds, I think, and especially for local matches. So like when we're playing Buxton, Mickleover, and teams that are still pretty close like Baseford, I think you're going to see some really, really good crowds at the Proctor Cars Stadium. So yeah, there's just plenty to be encouraged by, really is.
I'm just going to have to apologise to our listeners there. I don't know if he picks up on it. Matt swore very briefly there. He said the B word, and
right.
I just can't have that on here. So we're going to have to put.
There's nothing wrong with Baseford.
Oh no! Well, no. This is true. There is nothing wrong with this, but we're going to have to put parental advisory at the start of this podcast now, because the B words come out. But I think you've hit the nail on the head. Matlock Chesterfield have a fantastic relationship that's been built over years. I have family who are Chesterfield fans. You're a Chesterfield fan who I feel like we're going to have to tranquilise you up now with how excited you might get. It's like bloody Zebedee, I tell you, I've never seen anything like it. I think you've already said they're the greatest team to ever play. I said
arguably.
Oh, well, I'll quite happily argue it with you, trust me. But yeah, you build a relationship up with clubs, and it's great for Matlock to have that because it gives us the ability to then go to you know, your professional side, your Derby Counties, your Mansfields, your Chesterfields, and say, you know, if you need to loan a player, or you can say, okay, well, if you've got a youngster that you feel the Northern Premier League, make no bones about it, it's a tough league. It's a real hard knock sort of league. There's no punches that are held back, so you're gonna get a real physical tough game against any of the league sides. So, you know, maybe Mr. Rooney or Mr. Rowe or Mr. Clough, if they want to send any players Matlock's way, that's only going to be benefited from that relationship. And I feel, you know, to talk about the Wirksworth game very briefly, I believe the crowd for that, and if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me because people enjoy doing that. I think the crowd was 429. Now, Matlock had really made an effort, as have Wirksworth, to build this relationship with the two places, Wirksworth and Matlock, so close, building that community bond. And to see faces come to that game who we've not met before, who we had the pleasure of getting to know, who've then come to other games as well off the back of that. Wirksworth, the side themselves, Steve Murphy and everyone involved with them, they always show great support to us, and I know they're involved with a lot of local businesses in town. So to have the support of them, and I know they love, I believe they love coming down and playing at the Proctor Cars Stadium. A little bird told me, and I don't know if it's confirmed yet, so I'm going to drop some exclusive information on the podcast. But I believe that Wirksworth Ivanhoe are playing a friendly at Matlock. Not against Matlock, but we are allowing them to use the ground for a friendly. I don't know the confirmed date, so keep an eye on social media for that if you wish to attend. But you know, building up that relationship, it's can only be good things for Matlock, and it's a bridge we have to build if we want to go forward. The days of being able to have a football club that sort of locks itself off from every other club and doesn't build bridges, you can't do that anymore. Football's so transcendent in so many ways, whether that be through social media, whether that be through anything really, just day-to-day life. It's become such a big thing for a lot of people. So I'm definitely looking forward to that Chesterfield game, and hopefully it'll be great to see some old faces from the Spyrights fan base, some new faces, of course. Probably see my grandfather there, he's a big Chesterfield fan. My uncle is as well. So it's always great to see them. I know we'll see a lot of Matlock fans there as well. That promises to be a great night. That is on Wednesday. On Saturday, if you think back to a few weeks ago, you're thinking Brighouse Town. Well, let me tell you, no. That one is now off the agenda due to unavoidable issues, sadly. Wish Brighouse Town all the best for the season. They hosted us last pre-season. We had a fantastic day there. But instead, we will be making the trip to Newcastle Town. Now you're thinking, that's quite the trek to go and play a team from the Toon. But you were wrong, because Newcastle Town are based in the Stafford area, in and around there. So that's a 1 p.m. kickoff. That's going to be a whole different barrel of cats, because you're just not going to know what you're going to get with that one. You're going to get a different test. You're going to get a more hard tackling team, more physical team. Maybe you're going to get a team that's perhaps less sharp because they're not a full-time team. You just don't know. Speaking of barrel of cats, my cat's just shown up, oddly enough. He takes any praise going. But there's such a nice wide range, I feel, of friendlies, of differing abilities, different sorts of temperament that these teams are going to have, for lack of a better term. So it's going to be really interesting moving forward. Of course, we'll come back in a few weeks' time. We'll look at how the team has progressed. We promise you we will have some guests on, so you don't have to listen to me wittering on. I know Matt's very interested, and I could just be droning. I've got a very droneful voice, but it's great what we've seen so far. And hopefully, when we do come back, it'll only be positive and we can keep progressing. The fixtures are out. Hooray.
Finally.
My calendar has more felt tip in it now than my school report did. It's just jam-packed with fixtures. So let's look at the first three, shall we? It's kicking us off. Well, kicking the league off, we should say. Trip to Ashton United. Now, if you wanted if you're a sucker for a storyline when it comes to football, Matlock Town, you've got Philo, you've got Cage, you've got John Pritchard, you've got so many players, Mark Lees, just Sam Edgerton, players that have played for Ashton that are now playing for Matlock. Philo will really, you've got Phil, want to go out there and win that one.
Yeah. It's a good first day to have. I mean, obviously, if you could pick, you'd like to have it at home, wouldn't you? But it's a good first trip for the season. Hurst Cross is a nice little stadium. Actually, it was in that big book towards the end of last year where it had like the top 100 grounds in Britain. And it like featured all it weren't just like Premier League. It featured any sort of level of football. Hurst Cross was actually in that as well, but obviously not quite as high as Matlock, which was about number 4. But,
I'm just going to have to ask, have you paid to plug that book?
I've not, but it is a fantastic book. It is very good, but I've not been paid.
Could you tell us the price it retails at and where we can find it at all good bookstores?
No, I can't remember. I think Mike Bailey wrote it. But anyway.
Mike, get up phone to your agent. He's not done a good job of plugging this here. But go on, Matt, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good one. It's not too far away. It's in the Manchester area, Greater Manchester area. So it's not really that long a trip at all. Pretty easy to get to by train if you're not in car. So yes, it's a localish away trip against a team. Sort of, it's hard to say really. In the last couple of years, sort of like 2 seasons ago, they seemed to be. Well, they did have a very bad start, but then they did seem to be picking it up and seem to have recruited a little bit better. And then obviously, I mean, the last season it stopped after about 8 games anyway, so you can't really tell too much from that. But yeah, and obviously just with the amount of Matlock players in the squad and in the coaching staff that have got experience before of being at Ashton, particularly Philo as well. It'll be a team and a ground that they know very, very well. So yeah, I think that's pretty good first away trip for Matlock.
I can promise you, as somebody who has gone to Hurst Cross quite a few times. There is no easy games against Ashton United. It does not matter where they are in the league. I remember going there on opening day. It must be 7 or 8 years ago now. And I think I had some sort of illness. I can't remember if it was, I think it was some sort of infection in the tooth that I needed taken out. But I still wanted to go to football because football for me is just I just need to be there. It's my way of it's my way of finding inner peace, for lack of a better term. Some people have meditation. I have watching Matlock out. So I remember going, and I think my mum took me and my dad at the time, and it's like you say, it's not too long of a trip. But I remember sleeping all the way there, got to the game, watched it, we lost 3-0, sleeping all the way back. So it wasn't the best of trips. But you just never know. That Ashton team, of course, stopped Steve Kittrick's winning start with a 1-1 draw there. And as you say, at the time, they were around the foot of the table. But you know what you're going to get with these Manchester sides. They're going to be hard working. They're going to be hard hitting. And they're going to give you a game. And they're not going to be rolled over. So, and I feel like you say, you sort of, those first 10 games in particular of the league season, you're going into the unknown. People are finding the feet. Teams are gelling and finding that consistency. So I think it doesn't really matter who you play on the opening day out of all these teams. You're going to get a difficult game. And teams are going to want to put points on the board early doors. Nobody wants to get into those first 10 games, be looking at the table and thinking, are we in for a long season here? Now, after that opening away game, we have 2 home fixtures. One of which, our first one, is against a team beginning with B, but not the bad team beginning with B. The team we're all right with, Baseford United. Now, Baseford, the Nottingham side. Do you remember, Matt? We did play them away as the second game of the season. Do you remember who scored the winner that day?
Peter Cruz.
Yes.
With an amazing free kick. Oh yeah, one of the best free kicks I've ever seen. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, well, I mean, half of Matlock's games over the past 18 months have either been against Baseford or Grantham, I'm pretty sure.
Well, we get to see all the sides. All the sides. I was hoping you'd expand there. I don't think you were going to that. I thought I would coerce you a bit more, but yeah, those games, Baseford, I mean, Derbyshire versus Nottinghamshire. Two sides clashing. Marcus Marshall returning to the Proctor Cars Stadium. The last time we played Baseford, it was a 2-2 draw at Matlock. Marcus couldn't play because he had an injury. Obviously, Marcus moved for an undisclosed fee from Matlock. He's still very well thought of at Matlock. I will still send him the odd message to wind him up. He's a great lad. So that's going to be a difficult game. And then, again, another storyline-based football game. If you love your storyline-based football games, I've got you here. Hyde United, are you thinking, James, you're talking rubbish. How is that a storyline game? And I'll tell you, Matt, it's a storyline game because a certain Luke Hinsley, who was once a strike partner of Marcus Marshall, now plays for Hyde United. So that's 3 games. And as we know, players like to score against their former clubs. So, 3 games in, there's a lot of things to look forward to there. Is there one of those 3 games in particular you've got your eye on?
Well, I think the Baseford one for me, just because obviously it's the first game at home as well. But the last time Matlock did play Baseford, I think that was also a Tuesday night game at home when they drew 2-2. It was really good. It was a really entertaining game, and obviously it's just one of those things, isn't it? Because obviously we never have known how that season would have gone, but it was a sign that Matlock were going to be able to contend with all the big hitters in the league. So obviously Baseford for this season as well, you'd expect to certainly be one of the contenders for the top 5. So yeah, probably the Baseford game stands out because I think should be a terrific game judging by the past couple of times that they've played. So yeah, they know each other well. Steve Chettle is their manager. That's Nottingham Forest legend, played loads and loads of times for them in the Premier League. He's been there for a little while now, and they know he's pretty popular at the club. It's one of those clubs, isn't it, that have sort of keep going from strength to strength. They're at a pretty low level of non-league not that long ago, and they've been on the rise pretty sharpish recently in the last few years. So that should be a good game. And I know a few people sort of like in my industry, is that the best word to use?
Stratosphere.
Yeah, from Baseford, who we get on with well. So it'll be nice to see them. Because obviously not seen them for a long time. So yeah, Baseford game should be really, really good. But it's a tough fixture for the opening home game. But yeah, it should be a good one.
Now, I wasn't planning to go into this because I didn't know it was done. But I've just had some breaking news slide into my inbox from our press officer here in Richardson. This is embargoed till 3 p.m. However, I believe the podcast will be going out after 3 p.m. And it's just a discussion between the media team. But listeners, we can bring it you now. I will read through the press release and we'll get Matt's honest and open opinion on the news. Matlock Town have signed goalkeeper Paul Cooper to challenge Sean Rowley for the number 1 shirt. Cooper, who is 19, impressed as a substitute in the win over Derby County and also during the first half of Friday night's 1-0 home victory against Mansfield Town. The Manchester-based shot stopper had been released by Stoke City, where he was a second-year professional. He has been in the England camp, but his parents are Dutch, so he qualifies for both England and Holland nationalities. Stoke's academy director, Gareth Owen, described him as a very agile keeper, and how high and far he can jump is almost off the scale. Adding that he has lots of potential and stands out when he plays. Matlock manager Paul Phillips was delighted to have captured Cooper. He's a very good addition for us, said Phillips. And from 1 to 11, we have very good depth of players, and Paul's signing does just that. Now, we knew this was, we spoke about this before we went, I was going to say we went on air, but we're not technically allowed. Before we pressed record, the scary robot lady told us that it was recorded. So we knew this was coming. We didn't know if we could speak about it on the podcast. We now can. Paul Cooper versus Sean Rowley for that number 1 jersey. That's going to be interesting. From what you've seen, Matt, and, you know, at first you've only seen 45 minutes of Paul Cooper because you're in isolation station 24372. What did you make of that 45 minutes of football? And can you judge our new signing on that 45 minutes, please?
A little bit hard to say at the moment because obviously Derby didn't really do much up front, especially in that second half in that Matlock game. So, yeah, the new keeper didn't really have too much to do, all things considered. I thought, from being picky, his distribution of the ball was a little bit shaky. But from what I've heard, though, because obviously I weren't at the Mansfield game, apparently he had a very good game when he was called into action. He made, I think, 2 or 3 really good saves, and his distribution was a lot better. So, you know, maybe that Derby game, maybe a little bit of nerves, maybe. First game for the club, and maybe he knew if he played well, he was in for getting a deal signed. So, yeah, so a little bit hard to say. I've not really seen him sort of being in action too much because Derby didn't pose too much of a threat in that game. But yeah, from what I've heard about the Mansfield game, played well. So yeah, nothing wrong with a bit of competition. Obviously, it's fairly rare for sort of like a club at this level to have, you know, 2 very decent keepers sort of battling it out. So whether they sort of do some sort of deal maybe so that the keeper goes to like another club on like a dual registration basis, you know, that's a possibility maybe, just so that both keepers are still playing regular football. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with just competition for places, as long as it's not too overcrowded. But yeah, sounds like a good deal. And yeah, I mean, obviously Philo knows his goalkeeping, obviously. So if he's happy, then yeah, we should all be happy with that.
Very, very much so. I think its competition is great. Depth in squad is great. In fairness to Paul Cooper, and I may have to go back and watch the footage from the Derby County game, but I do know last night it was from his kick that Liam Hughes took down that allowed Callum Chippendale to go through. And I believe, if I'm right, it was a similar ball from Coops to Liam Hughes that then put Alex Byrne through. So he clearly has something about him. And I mean, it makes me wonder if there were a bit of nerves for him for that Derby game. Of course, it's always difficult coming in to a new club, especially when you're trialing. You're keen to impress. You're keen not to make mistakes. That's always on your mind. Against Mansfield, I thought he was solid. He didn't have loads to do, but what he did do, he did really well. And he had a kick on him that was, you were literally hitting the opposition's box with every kick. He seemed settled. He seemed, Sam Edgerton was missing, so it wasn't the Gladiators defence you'd expect back there with Trilist, Reece Kendall, and Ryan Coulter. But he seemed at home and he seemed more at ease with what he was being asked to do. And I think, like you say, that depth going forward, it's no good just having 11 players in the Northern Premier League and thinking that's going to be enough. Because I will tell you now, it's simply not. I have seen sides come and go from this league, and the sides that go on and do well are always the sides that you can look at their bench and go, oh, that player's going to change the game, or that player's going to do this. You can't get away with just having one good goalkeeper anymore because injuries can and will happen, to quote the WWF video. So
WWE, it's not the Worldwide Fund.
I don't know. I've seen pandas with steel chairs. But you need somebody who's going to come in, who's going to... I think Coops has got that. It's going to be very interesting as well. I'm going to have to ask him whether we put Dutch nationality on his player profile or English. Because if we put Dutch, then Craig Cantrell, if you're listening, get on eBay, get our flag sorted, sir. We're just going to be that flags down that side at some point. God bless him. He's committed to flagism. Is flagism a word? I don't think it's a word. But yeah. So, we got to bring a signing on here as well. Isn't that exciting? So yeah, lots coming up. We'll talk about the cricket game very briefly because I don't think we've done the podcast since that cricket game. Matlock Cricket versus Matlock Town FC. Matlock Cricket, of course, putting out a mixed side. I believe it was some of their first, some of their second. A few juniors mixed in. Fantastic day. Warm day. Both myself and I believe Alex Wiles got quite sunburnt. Curse of bin ginger, but there you go. Or bold in my case. Not bold as in 2 in 1, but bold as in thinning on the top.
I've managed to find a word for what Craig Cantrell is in regards to flags. He would be described. He would be described as a vexillologist.
Ooh.
A study or general interest in flags is called vexillology. I knew there'd be a word for it, so there you go.
I don't think he's buying the flags because he has an interest in them, though. Unless he is. Maybe he's just like really into his geography. We don't know. We'll have to have Craig on at some point and ask him where his love of flags began. That's coming up on mine and Matt's new podcast, which is James and Matt's Flags of the World. Look out for that one in your Spotify playlists at some point in the future. But yeah, we are 4 games in, 4 wins. The sun's out. Ice creams are sold in the park. It's not coming home. Not for England, but football came home to the Proctor Cars Stadium, Matthew. And, you know, I thought we'd make it through this whole podcast without mentioning that, Matt. I'm not ready yet. I'm not emotionally available to talk about the final.
But, very briefly. I've not even watched any of that game back. It's too painful. I've not even watched any of it back.
I just want to say two things. So, first of all, I've only just realised Matt isn't wearing a Scotland shirt because I thought he was. It is actually an English shirt. Secondly, and this isn't hyperbolic and this isn't innuendo, Matt's just whipped a banana out of nowhere, and I don't know what's going on here, but I have many questions. He's now holding it like he's a really napped James Bond, so that's really good. So Matt's clearly in need of potassium, so I guess we should end this podcast. Thank you for listening. Matlock Town versus Chesterfield, 7:30 p.m. kickoff on Wednesday. Please come down. We'd love to absolutely hit stadium capacity. Obviously, there's no restrictions. Restrictions been moved on the 19th. Please, I'm asking you as a human who will be at the game, please try and act with common sense. Think of other people. If you want to wear a mask at the game, if that makes you feel safe, respect people's right to do that, because at the end of the day, whether you're a Matlock Town fan, whether you're a Chesterfield fan, whether you're neutral, we all are human. We all got to look after each other. And the best way we can do that is by using common sense and being responsible. Then on the Saturday, we travel to Newcastle Town in another pre-season friendly, 1 p.m. kickoff. I beg your pardon. In Staffordshire, yes, we're not off to the tomb. Matt's not treating me to a day out in Newcastle, sadly. So we've got that to look forward to. Hopefully, for those who saw my not so brilliant text commentary for the Mansfield Town game, I'm a wee bit rusty. I did forget to put up the full-time score until 2 a.m. in the morning on the Facebook page. So if you did notice that, I'm very sorry. But we did win, and I was in the bar for a fair bit afterwards. So I did contribute to the club in that way. Now, let's round things off. Thank you again to Matthew Rhodes. Matt, do you have anything to plug other than Mark Bailey's book?
Yeah. Quite a lot. There's just loads going on. It's a little bit of a blessing in disguise that I have to stay at home at the moment because I've actually got time to write all these now. But yeah, in brief, well, by the time this goes out, the match may have ended by now. But North Derbyshire Radio are doing well. They've got lots of stuff planned in terms of the football coverage for the upcoming season. So I know they're doing stuff for Alfreton Chesterfield today, but in terms of Matlock, North Derbyshire Radio are doing full live match commentary for Gladiators against the Spyrites on Wednesday evening. So I'll be on it, whether I sound like Danny Murphy or not. I hope not, but we'll see. And Josh Smith will be on lead commentary. Yeah. So we'll be doing that. So if you can't go to the game, then you are able to listen to it on there. And there's an event called the Olympics. Don't know if anyone's heard of it, but that's
never heard of it.
It won't feel like the Olympics. I'm going to be pretty blunt. It will be very, very strange because
I thought you were about to say it won't feel like the Olympics, but I'll be in Tokyo. I'm on my way, James. I was like, you kept that quiet.
Yeah. Well, I wish, but so that's going. So there's a full Olympics preview that I'll be doing for Derbyshire Media Company. There's a lot of Derbyshire interest. So so you can have a read of that, or you can listen to it on a live link through North Derbyshire Radio as well. And also, just finally, because they'll be doing the same sort of thing for the Paralympics as well, but I'm hoping to interview a Matlock Paralympian. There's no one for the Olympic Games that's from Matlock, unfortunately, but I've looked into it, and there is actually some very local interest in the Paralympics. It's a guy called Ryan Cowling, who is from Matlock, and he's in Team GB's wheelchair rugby team. I think it's nicknamed Murderball, I think. And he's in that, and I'm hoping to interview him at some point next week in prep for the Paralympics, which begins in late August. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, I guess.
It's just said to Matt, plug something here. Matt went, hey, I hope we've got an extension code, because I've got a lot of plugs.
Always.
So, yes, go check out that. Matt's a brilliant writer. North Derbyshire Radio, we've done a lot of stuff with them as a club. Really looking forward to doing more stuff with them. Naz, Josh, the whole team over there, great people. Apologies for anybody who heard my cat during Matt's plugging there. My cat's working really hard currently to get his Dreamy sponsorship. He's not heard anything back from them. So if Felix or any of the cats in the know want to help him out, give him a bell. My plugs wise, go follow me on Twitter at the Matlock Fan. Go follow the club on Twitter at Matlock_Town FC. Go follow Matthew on Twitter at
Matlock Rhodes.
It's worrying if he doesn't know. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. If there's a social media platform, we're usually on there. We're not on TikTok because I don't really understand TikTok.
I think we're both too old for TikTok.
I'm just old, which is bad because, for those who don't know, I just want to point this out to end the podcast, right? I'd known Matt for about a year. I thought for the longest time Matt was younger than me. He's got this head of hair, he's got his boyish charm, and he's got full of youthfulness. And I'm like, I thought, he's got to be 5-6 years younger than me. I asked other people, who do you think's younger? No, Matt's a few years older than me. Now, whereas I look about 20 years older than him. It's just further proof that a full head of hair doesn't make the man, but it damn well sure helps. We're going to end on that. So thank you for listening, and we shall be back coming in your ears another time. Thank you very much.
Bye.